Hi, I'm Glen Stasky from Clearwater Lights. I'm coming to you from our factory in Sacramento, California, where we manufacture high-quality LED lights for motorcycles, off-road vehicles, racetracks, and police vehicles. Today we're going to be doing a video installation of a pair of Erica lights and a pair of Darla lights on a BMW R1200GS motorcycle.
Here's a picture of the tools we'll be using to complete the project. Before you get started, safety is an important consideration. If the bike has a center stand, put it up on the center stand. If it does not have a center stand, then tie it down securely from the sides so it cannot tip over on you while you're working on it. After removing the seats, disconnect the battery, the negative terminal, and now you're ready to get started.
Here we have the tech mount mounting bracket for a BMW GS. It consists of three components, major components. They're a breakaway part. These parts fit together as such. They bolt to the motorcycle. Mounting bracket mounts it up under the oil cooler. Included hardware, bolts straight up, very efficient, very clean. When assembling the parts, be sure to line up the bolts with the holes and gently thread in the Allen bolt. Use the included Allen wrench to tighten it up and snug it up. Leave all the bolts loose until final assembly for adjustment. Once that's complete, take the two extra mounting bolts and the clamp. We have one clamp showed here, the other one's already on the motorcycle. We're going to attach the mounting bracket to the frame of the motorcycle. It's helpful to cut the two factory wire ties to remove the harness back for a little more extra room. You'll spread the bracket apart, clamp it, and tighten it down. The next step is to mount the light bar to the included brackets. Line them up, gently screw them together. It's helpful to leave all the parts slightly loose so the fitment is easier to make. Use the included wrench, gently tighten each item up. The last adjustment should be tightening the clamps to the bike. The light bar is now mounted. Unpackage the harness and prepare it for mounting on the motorcycle. We disconnect this positive lock so that we can have an easier means of putting the wires through the bike. The next step is to mount the harness and the relay box on the motorcycle. It's best to split the harness apart like this. Let the side with the green connector go to the right side. Position it over the top of the frame and use two zip ties to mount it. Next, we route the battery cable to the battery. Remove the side access cover by gently pulling. This will give you better access to the wiring. Use a coat hanger or a straight piece of wire to act as a guide, a pull guide for your wiring. Tape the end of your wire to your pull snake. Now guide your wire and pull it gently through to the battery. We'll route the wires and zip tie them later. Here we're affixing the battery wire to a loom that goes back to the battery area. When routing wires, it's best to follow the BMW factory harness. Make sure that all wires are clear of any moving parts and the steering mechanism. In order to make connections to the motorcycle, we're going to remove the factory BMW connector. The Clearwater connector plugs directly into the headlight and the factory harness. We tooled the mating connector so to make your installation really easy. Plug in the female into the headlight and plug our male connector into the factory connector. Here's a picture of our mating adapter plugged in between the headlight and the factory headlight harness.
Tuck the assembled connectors up and out of the way as shown.
Now that we've brought the battery cable to the battery and we've mounted the relay box, we're going to assemble all the wires in their appropriate location for where they're going to end up going. This is the switch wiring. We'll mount the switch in the panel here. Underneath, on each side, we have the port, the connector port for either the Krista or the Erica light. Up here is the additional port for adding Glendas or Darlas at a future date. We may show that in this video later on. And this green connector is the connector that goes to our dimmer module. And the dimmer module will mount on the left handlebar. This white wire we connect to the horn for the horn high beam activation feature. With the proprietary GS headlight connector harness we offer, the high beam is already wired into the harness. The next step is to assemble the dimmer bracket to the dimmer. Take the flange nut, put the mounting bolt through the bracket, thread it in. It's a nylock locking nut to keep it from coming apart during vibration. Use a 10mm open end and a hex wrench and tighten it gently. For a GS, it mounts it at a right angle, just like that. Snug it up, and you're ready to mount it on the motorcycle. Now we're going to remove the existing mirror clamp bolt and replace it with the Clearwater supplied bolt. Keep this bolt in a Ziploc bag in your drawer in case you sell your motorcycle and want to remove your Clearwater lights. Use the supplied 5mm Allen bolt and the spacer. Snug it down and angle it up to suit your needs. Route the dimmer cable following factory wires. We connect the posi tap to the green horn wire here. The white wire will be connected to the end of the posi tap to complete our connection for the horn option. We're going to mount the mounting brackets to the light. In this case, we're mounting to an Erica, the new Erica. We orient the light so that the logo is at the bottom on the lens, or simply the single LED on the top. Take your bracket from behind, use the included 8mm bolts and a washer. Hand tighten both sides until we adjust it later. We now position the light to the light bar. Bolt the bracket up underneath. Hand tighten the 10mm nylock nut. Then using two 17mm wrenches, tighten them up. We generally set the left light perpendicular to the bike and the right light slightly 5 degrees to the right to help illuminate the side of the road. Now we simply plug in the light. Listen for the click. This wire will be tied up later and put away. Left side light is complete. Now we're going to show you how to drill the hole in the left side body panel for the power switch. The hole is located directly above the pre-molded hole from BMW. If you reach underneath, you'll find the hole there. You line up your drill and you start to drill.
Attach the crimp-on connectors to the leads from the wiring harness and then attach them to the switch.
We're going to pre-assemble the Darla on the B9 fork bracket. Split the clamshells apart, put the bolts down. The Darla is pre-mounted to the GU2 bracket. Now we're going to mount this with the 10mm bolts to the eared bracket, and we'll go over to the bike. We're going to mount the clamp on the fork. Put the rear bracket in, put the front bracket over the front, line the two up, start the screw. Now it's time to mount the light to the bracket. The height adjustment can be set later. The wires will be addressed and following the factory brake wires. It's best to leave a little bit of a loop. We call it a drip loop. It aids in keeping water out of the light. We provide the wiring loom a little bit extra length for other installations where possibly a PDM-60 or a fuse box may be mounted. For directly mounting to the battery, you can pull back the wire, trim it to length to minimize the amount of wire underneath. We include an extra ground lug so that we can crimp it together. This is the ground wire ready to go. The fuse, provided fuse, will be dressed in here. We can cut that a little shorter here and trim it. We can use a posi lock here to connect the two wires together. Push in and tighten up. Our wires are now properly dressed to be put on the bike. Okay, we've completed installation of Erica's on the light bar and a pair of Darla's on our CNC billet brackets on this 1200GS. As we're going through the installation, before we take it on the road, we want to double check a few important features, safety features. Number one, you want to check left and right motion of the handlebars to make sure no wires are being pinched or any of the connections are being compromised. You want to double check for any zip ties that have not been trimmed off. We want to make sure everything looks nice and clean and snug. The wires are tight, not too tight. We don't want the zip ties to be too tight, so over time they could possibly cut through the insulation. We check this, make sure everything's tightened up. Okay, now we're ready to put the seat on. Take the second seat. We're about to adjust the lights, the Darlas. We want to make sure that they're perpendicular with the travel of the road. And to do that, we take the bike off the center stand, put the rider's weight on the bike, and preferably if you're going on a big trip, set it with the luggage in place. And either with a straight line or a level, we set the lights level with the ground. To test the bike on a BMW, you have to start it. So we'll start it. Darla's, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100% with the high beam. Now Erica's, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100%. The flash mode and the horn mode. If that doesn't get their attention, nothing will.